Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books and I let you know what I thought about them. And we always start with the pick of the week. And this week's pick of the week, Universal Monsters, The Invisible Man, issue number 3, from Skybound, from Image, from writer James Tynion IV, from artist Danny, from colorist Brad Simpson, and from letterer Becca Carey. This book is phenomenal. So Skybound's been doing these Universal Monster books, and I am a huge fan of the Universal Monsters. That IP, that property, whatever you want to call it. I love Dracula. I love Frankenstein, the Wolfman, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, the Bride of Frankenstein, the Phantom of the Opera, the Creature from the Black Lagoon. And Skybound, led by Robert Kirkman, has been able to get the rights to do these Universal Monster movies, right? Now, books like Frankenstein, Dracula, Invisible Man, they're kind of like in the public domain. Anybody can play around with these things, but there are certain elements, certain visual cues, certain story beats, certain character traits that are iconic and actually owned by Universal, the home of Universal Monster Classics, right? So this is officially a Universal Monsters book. Okay, and I love that. And Skybound has been doing a great job with these books. Dracula by James Tynion and Martin Simmons worked as a story within the movie. So did Michael Walsh's Frankenstein. Then you got books like The Creature Walks Among Us that tried to do like the sequel type thing. That was the one that didn't really quite work for me. The Mummy also was good and interesting, and it kind of did this thing where it was like a movie within a movie, but like elaborating on certain parts of the story. The Invisible Man operates as a full-on prequel to the Universal Monster Invisible Man. And I love that movie. It's directed by James Whale, starring Claude Rains. I think it's undervalued. Honestly, as much as people prop up that movie, I still think it's undervalued. I think it's one of the best Universal Monster movies from the 30s. 100%, excuse me. That being said, this prequel comic book is fantastic. It is super exciting. I was on a retailer call not too long ago, and they were talking about the Mummy, and James Tynion was there. I was really confused. I was like, why is James Tynion here to talk about a book that he has nothing to do with, right? But it was because they did announce to us as retailers that they were doing The Invisible Man next, and that James Tynion was going to do it. And Tynion said he wanted to do The Invisible Man more than any other Universal monster because this is truly... So in the story, this dude turns himself invisible. We know the H.G. Wells tale, right? So this dude turns himself invisible. The chemicals that he uses to do that kind of drive him insane. He wants to take over the world. He wants to kill people. All that jazz, right? But maybe there was something inherent to the character of Griffin that he wasn't quite a great dude to begin with, right? And that's in the book. That's a little bit in the movie. It's definitely explored here in this prequel. And in issue number 3, it really elevates that up. Griffin has taken his experiments to the next level. He's gone from playing around with mice and cats to human subjects. So what is the first human subject like for the Invisible Man? It's horrific. It's terrible. It's horrendous. It's horrific. And it's freaking awesome. This book is great. And then you got Danny, who does this amazing atmospheric artwork that totally works for the tone that is needed for this book. Brad Simpson's colors do an exceptional job to elevate that, and Carey's letters work as well. I am a huge biased fan of the Universal Monster properties. That being said, I wasn't vibing with some of these Universal Monster books from Skybound, but Invisible Man stands up there with Frankenstein and Dracula as one of my favorites. We only got one more issue to go, but this was great. It really honors the original James Whale movie. It really honors and appreciates the original H.G. Wells story, oh, that's fine. Never thought about that. James Whale did the movie. H.G. Wells did the book. That's kind of funny. James Tynan should have changed his name to James Tynan Wales the Fourth. That's what he should have done. This book is awesome. It's the pick of the week. It's great, and I love it. Also from Image and Skybound, we have Skinbreaker issue number 2. I was really impressed with issue number 1, mostly because David Finch's artwork was insane. It's insane here yet again. This is a story. It's about a tribe on another planet, a completely different world, a whole new culture, and they have this idea in their culture, in their society, that the leader of the group, the only way he can be replaced is for somebody to challenge him to a fight to the death. So we have a character who is not super strong, not very violent, not very outgoing in a physical manifestation. And the leader of this tribe is like, yo, you need to challenge me because I'm getting old, I'm getting sick, and I need somebody that I can trust to take over the tribe. And all these other fools, including that one right over there, who's just like some kind of like meathead, I don't want him to challenge me, kill me, and take over the leadership of this tribe. You are the only one who can do that. So he's having to bring himself to challenge his mentor and know that he can and must kill his mentor to take over leadership of this tribe. So you got a really interesting story that's been done, but it's done in a different way here. And you got David Finch doing artwork, and I have heard that David Finch has been working on this book pretty much for years, and it shows. The artwork is absolutely insane, incredibly intricately detailed. It's phenomenal. The book takes, the second chapter of Skinbreaker takes us to the next moment that we know was going to happen. Then it does a big time shift that's unexpected, out of nowhere, and really kind of like pulls the rug out from under you. And also, artistically, the way that that time change was revealed was rather clever and interesting. So Skinbreaker issue number 1 was good, but Skinbreaker issue number 2 was a little bit better. Then we've got No Man's Land. This is from Szymon Kudranski. I really loved issue number 1. I said this might be the start of what might be Kudranski's best work yet. Now, Kudranski is an artist. He's also a writer. And he's been doing these books on his own, like Something Epic, like Blood Commandment, and they keep getting better and better. And No Man's Land issue number 1 really, really grabbed my interest. Issue number 2 holds on to that interest, and it even grabs a secondary piece of interest that I didn't even know that I had, because there might be an element of supernaturality, is that a word, to this book, and I freaking love it. So Russia, the Soviet Union, because this book is set during the time of the Soviet Union, and the US, they both have land that's very close to each other, right? Alaska and Russia, right? You know, like they're very close together, and at certain times of the year, an ice bridge actually forms between these two superpowers. Well, what happens when right there in the middle of that border, during this ice bridge, somebody's murdered in a ritualistic, slightly supernatural, but very much obvious kind of way. So the first book really did a great job of setting everything up, and the second book continues that momentum. It's such a really solid read. Szymon is such a master storyteller visually. The art in this book is amazing, and if I have ever had any criticism of Kudranski's work as a writer, it's just been some maybe of the translation of some of his dialogue. Maybe it's like overly verbose, maybe it's a little bit stiff and stilted. That is all gone here in No Man's Land. Great concepts, great ideas, creepy, moody, tonally just perfect. I absolutely love this book. If you like psychological thrillers, if you like serial killer crime stories that may have a tinge of supernaturality, that may not actually be there, and that may not actually even be a word. It doesn't matter. What does matter is that No Man's Land issue number 2 rocks. Read that book. Then we've got Escape issue number 3 from Rick Remender, Daniel Acuna. This is a great book. Fantastic. Absolutely superb. It's a war comic. It's about a man on a mission. And his mission is to dispose of this, like, secret device that could end the war, right? We're in, like, World War I, World War II type territory here. But this is another world. It's another war. It's another land. In fact, everybody here are like dogs. They're all animals. This is very much... If you are a fan and a student of Frank Miller and the way that he tells stories, this is incredibly Miller-esque. And Miller's never really done a lot of war comics outside of like 300, but the way that... So our man is now behind enemy lines. Or my bad, our dog is now behind enemy lines, and he is... working it. He's trying to get to where he needs to go. He knows he's on basically a suicide mission, right? And the captions, the way that the lettering is placed in the book, the way that the images are, the way that they work compositionally, and the way that they work with the spotting of the blacks and everything, and the color. Outside of the color thing, everything about this is like what Frank Miller taught us about comics, utilized to the next degree. That's what's happening here in the pages of Escape. I really didn't like issue number 1. Issue number 2 really pulled me in. Issue number 3 keeps those hooks all up in my gullet. Then we've got News from the Fallout, issue number 5, the penultimate issue of this book by Chris Condon and Jeffrey Allen Love. And the star of the show is Jeffrey Allen Love. The art is absolutely amazing. It is a story that is told in silhouette. In silhouette. Now, I know a lot of people are going to look at this book and be like, well, this looks boring. It ain't a boring book. It's horrific. It's exciting. It's action-packed, and it has an energy and a sense of movement about it that I don't think a lot of people could do with just utilizing the work of silhouette. Less is more. We've heard that so many times. In fact, every time we hear it, we roll our eyes. News from the Fallout, less is more in this book, because this book also narratively takes a big twist and turn that blew my mind. This book went a little bit deeper here, and I really appreciate it for that. News from the Fallout, man, y'all, that's one of the best books of the year. Then we got Exquisite Corpses, issue number 6. Another fun enough issue. This book is all right, so it's got so many different writers, so many different artists. That does lead into an element of inconsistency in the book, where not every issue is paced the same way. Not every issue is composed the same way. Not every issue has the same kind of feeling. That being said, all in all, the book's been good. And it's been good all the way through. And this issue was no exception. I've explained this book before. I think if you're, by issue 6, if you're reading this book, you know what the book is, right? But basically, the 13 original colonies of the United States of America, they each have a leader, okay? And one of those leaders is the actual leader of America. And every so often, every few years or something, they decide, we got to have a tournament to find out who the next leader of the United States is actually going to be, based on the heads of these 13 families, these 13 colonies. And yes, there's a little bit of 100 bullets in that idea, but not really. This is a way different book, okay? So that being said, this one, and every so often, and it happens on Halloween. So I love the idea that this book happens on Halloween. Also, we're in the midst of Horror Fest. We're nearing the end of Horror Fest. Halloween is next week. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Anyway, that being said, Exquisite Corpses is a solid book that at times does shine out as a little bit inconsistent, but it does work. And that's what's exciting, is that so many different writers, so many different artists, under the leadership of James Tynion and Michael Walsh, can create something, can craft something that, even though it feels inconsistent, it is tied together in a consistent manner. Paradoxical? Maybe, but you know what? I got a get out of paradox free card, so I can say these things. I loved issue number 6, though. I thought it was super solid. One of the so each family has an assassin that they take over a town every so often on Halloween night. They each have an assassin that's like representing them, and whoever the last man standing or the last person standing is representing who the next king or queen or whatever of the United States is going to be. In this one of the assassins is like a kid, so he's out there trick-or-treating with another kid. This book, creepy, wild, cool, interesting. I liked it. Thought it was super solid. Then we got King Spawn here with issue number 50. So King Spawn issue number 50, it's actually part of a 3-part story. This is actually a 6-part story. So King Spawn is hitting issue 50 this week. Very soon, Gunslinger Spawn's going to hit issue 50. Very soon after that, The Scorched is going to hit issue 50. All of these issues tell one story. Okay, I was on the retailer call with Todd McFarlane, who was writing these issues. And, you know, Rory McConville has been doing a really great job on King Spawn, making it like a one-and-done Spawn horror anthology. All that's out the window for this 50th issue. And what it does is it has chapter 1 and chapter 4 of a 6-chapter story that we're going to get chapter 2 and 5 in Gunslinger. We're going to get chapter 3 and 6 in Scorch. So it all kind of works together, and it all takes place after recent events of Spawn. It's all right. It's interesting enough. I can't really judge this book, though, on what it actually sets up and what it accomplishes without reading Spawn or Gunslinger Spawn 50 and Scorch 50. I thought the book was okay. I liked it, but it didn't completely wow me. I'm not saying it's a must-read, but I did like it. Then we've got Gunslinger Spawn here with issue number 48. It's okay. I'm really not vibing with Gunslinger Spawn. Like, post-Spawn 350, Gunslinger took a dive deep. Like, when Brett Booth left this book, there was something missing in this book. And I guess what was missing was Brett Booth, right? But he went over to the main Spawn title, and that title's actually improved. So, like, art's important to these things, right? Comic books are a visual medium, y'all. Do not be fooled, like I was once before, on either side of this argument. What's more important, the writing or the artwork? None of that matters. What matters is how good the comic book is, and it means everybody working together, writing, penciling, inking, plotting, lettering, coloring, editing. All these books need this. This book doesn't have everything, and it's not the equivalent of the sum of its parts. Wait, did I say that wrong? Anyway, Gunslinger Spawn issue number 48. I'm kind of whacking out on that book. All right, let's jump over to Marvel. We got X-Men Age of Revelation, Book of Revelation, issue number 1. This is written by Jed MacKay. It's an interesting story. So, Doug Ramsey, The Age of Revelation. This is what it is. 10 years from today, Doug Ramsey, who is the new heir of Apocalypse, has unleashed a virus upon America that causes most of the eastern United States to either, the humans in the eastern United States, to either become mutants or die. And now he reigns with like an iron fist, okay? So, Book of Revelation is an interesting story that's about his inner circle, okay? So he surrounds himself with mutants whose abilities are to elevate the abilities of other mutants, like Fabian Cortez. Fabian Cortez is in this book. He's not a good dude. What happens to Fabian when someone else shows up who may be able to do Doug Ramsey more of a solid? That's what we're dealing with here. I don't think it's super essential, but I do think that there are elements that are teased here because this is written by Jed MacKay. And I have told you this. If you really want to focus on just the main story of Age of Revelation, the Jed MacKay bits seem to be the most relevant ones. Jed MacKay would not be doing this story if this did not have some kind of purpose for the conclusion of this story, and I totally think it does. So I would say that if you are committed to X-Men Age of Revelation, definitely check that one out. Then we've got the Omega Kids from X-Men Age of Revelation. This one not super essential to your understanding of Age of Revelation or anything that's going on with that main story, but man, this was really good. First of all, it's a story about Kid Omega, Quentin Quire. I'm a huge fan of that character, created by Grant Morrison, Frank Quitely, two of my absolute favorite comic book creators of all time. From my favorite X-Men run of all time, New X-Men by Grant Morrison, Frank Quitely, and many other artists. So, we get to play around with that box. And this is about a team of psychics that are supposed to be Revelation, aka Doug, aka the New Apocalypse, aka that's the last time I'm doing the aka bit. AKA, I can't promise that fully. Fuck, I just ruined it. Anyway, that being said, Omega Kids is about Quentin Quire being the leader of Doug Ramsey's first line of psychic defense. But there's a twist in this book that works exceptionally well and was one of the most interesting bits of the entirety of Age of Revelation. I thought that so far, this might be my favorite Age of Revelation book. I like it a lot. It's written by Tony Fleece, who we know. Also written by, art by Andreas Guignolet. I liked the art, I liked the story, and like I said, it was the twist that really made it work. From X-Men Age of Revelation, we have The Last Wolverine, issue number 1. This is written by Saladin Ahmed, with artwork by Edgar Salazar. Art's okay, the story's decent enough. So in this world, we are learning that Wolverine is now an agent. Logan is now an agent of Doug Ramsey, Revelation, the New Apocalypse, right? I used commas there and not AKAs. I am proud of myself, even if you are not. That being said, who is the last Wolverine? Is it this Logan, who is basically the enforcer of Doug Ramsey, Revelation, Apocalypse? No. The last Wolverine is this kid who became a Wendigo, was cursed with that, and now he's the new Wolverine. If you've been following Wolverine by Saladin Ahmed, this is what he's playing with, right? A lot of these writers are taking things that they've been doing in their books, and then their books get usurped, right? Like, Omega Kids has the idea and the luxury of not usurping another book that is ongoing. This book is usurping Wolverine. So Saladin Ahmed is taking things that he laid out in Wolverine and taking them to their next step, especially in this world of Revelation. Doug Ramsey, Era of Apocalypse. It was all right. It was decent. It was interesting enough, but it didn't really completely wow me. It's not essential. But if you are reading Ahmed's Wolverine, you might want to check that out. Then we got Radioactive Spider-Man, also from the Age of Revelation, from the X-Men books. This is written by Joe Kelly, with artwork by Kev Walker. And it is about a Spider-Man in the Age of Revelation. Now, this is not a book that is usurping the Spider-Man book by Joe Kelly. That book is still being published because Marvel's like, what are we, stupid? That's one of our best-selling books. We're not gonna not publish Amazing Spider-Man 2 or 3 times a month. So let's just let Joe kind of do his own version of what Peter Parker is like in this Age of Revelation world. So Peter Parker is a human, though he is genetically manipulated through radioactivity, right? So the bomb that Doug Ramsey, Revelation, Era of Apocalypse, the bomb that he sets off has effects on Peter Parker, but Peter Parker is utilizing radioactivity to halt those effects, but also enhance certain things about him, maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. That thing's going on. He's got a different, interesting, unique relationship here, and it's got an interesting enough ending. I thought it was all right. So out of all of the Age of Revelation books, I think the only one that's near essential is Book of Revelation. The only one that I would recommend is Omega Kids. And the other two, Wolverine and Spider-Man, they aight. They aight. All right, then we got Fantastic Four issue number 4 by Ryan North and Humberto Ramos. Artwork is great. I love Ramos's artwork. Story is okay. I think Ryan North's been doing a decent enough job. This is moved beyond now what is it? I almost said the Books of Doom, but it's the something of the One World Under Doom, right? It's moving beyond that. It's a nice kind of one and done Fantastic Four story, but it's not really a one and done Fantastic Four story because it kind of, no, it is. This one is a one and done story yet again. It's interesting enough. So the Fantastic Four, as a family, as a team, they get a new pet. That pet may not be what everybody thinks it is, and Alicia Masters is the only one who understands that something fishy is going on. It was interesting enough. I liked the artwork. I thought the story was good. It's been one of the better Fantastic Four issues in my recent memory. Then we've got Moon Knight, Fist of Khonshu, issue number 13. Jed MacKay's just been doing such a fantastic job with this book. If you're reading Moon Knight, you're going to love it. If you're jumping into Moon Knight, don't jump in here. Jump in at the beginning of Jed MacKay's run. It's going to be so much better. And also the art, man. Let me talk about the art. This is Domenico Carbone. The artwork here is absolutely stellar. So cool. A lot of these Moon Knight books have been built up as self-contained, one-and-done issues that are part of a larger narrative. He's kind of like laxing that structure a little bit to do a little bit more grandiose storytelling here, and I really like it. It's tied into previous stuff from like a previous Doctor Strange run, but for the most part, it just works as a great badass next part of Moon Knight. All right, we got Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 22. Marco Tichetto is back on the artwork. Jonathan Hickman is writing this. We just recently learned that all of these books are ending at issue 24, and Ultimate Endgame is promising to be the end of this new Ultimate Universe. All right, first of all, I applaud it. Marvel, you committed to a 2-year story, and you're sticking with it, and it's over. I love that. I do. On the other side, as a retailer and as a fan, oh, you're finally making comics that are really super interesting, and you're just going to end them? I don't believe it, to be honest. Anyway, this issue of Ultimate Spider-Man, one of the better ones in recent issues. There's been a lot. I've heard people, even my buddy Jim Ment, has been talking about Spider-Man has lost a little bit of a sense of energy. It's just lost something, Ultimate Spider-Man has. And I'm not saying that it gets it back in this issue, but a lot of things are getting set up for the grand finale and this book's involvement in the overall grand scheme end of the Ultimate Universe. I liked this issue. I loved the ending. I loved what it sets up. We shall see what happens in its final 2 issues, y'all. We only got 2 more issues. But we only have 1 more issue of Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion, and it's here, issue number 5, co-written by Dennis Camp and Cody Ziegler. This is more of a Miles Morales story. It's not... This book has proved to not be super essential into the ongoing story of the Ultimate Universe, but I guarantee you that this book is going to be majorly essential to the aftermath of the conclusion of the Ultimate Marvel 2.0 story, if you want to call it that. Also, this has a plot point that gets developed in Ultimates number 17. So if you're reading all of the Ultimate books, read Incursion before you get to Ultimates issue number 17, because it's major. This book, revelations in this book lead into this book. So, Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion was a decent enough finale. I liked it. I thought it was solid. So there you go. Ultimates issue number 17 kind of goes back, well, I don't remember what issue it was. Was it 4? Was it 5? Was it something like that? There was an issue of the Ultimates that really focused in on this version of Reed Richards. Not the Maker version, but the Ultimate Doom version of Reed Richards. And this one kind of mimics that structure. Also, Phil Noto is back on the art, so I like that. And because of some revelations from Incursion, issue number 5, Ultimates number 17, this read is now taking things in a different way, but also they're elaborating on things. I love how it works together as a 1-2 punch with that previous issue of the Ultimates, and I think it works. Then we've got Predator Kills the Marvel Universe issue number 3. There have been 3 books to lead into this, all written by Benjamin Percy. Predator versus Wolverine, Predator versus Black Panther, Predator versus Spider-Man. None of those books were must-reads or super essential or great, but they were fun. I liked them. And I like this one too, because all three of those series lead into this book, and it works magnificently well. Let's jump over to DC. And from DC Comics, we have Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 13, a super solid issue of Absolute Wonder Woman. This is kicking off a new two-part storyline. We no longer have Hayden Sherman on the artwork. They are stepping aside for just a moment. I believe they will be right back. But we have Mateus Bergara here for this two-part story, and I really like the art. The art's pretty cool. So there's this new threat that's out there in Gateway City. Absolute Wonder Woman has to confront it, and she's also having to confront, let's just say, a piece of herself. Also, the mystery of Themyscira of Paradise Island. This is a Wonder Woman that was raised by Circe on an island in hell. So she doesn't have much knowledge or memory or connection to Themyscira. Actually, scratch that. She does have a major connection, even though it's not a physical connection. That connection is being played with here, and the ultimate result of who and why is pretty freaking interesting. So I think Absolute Wonder Woman is continuing to be solid. It's not quite wowing me the way it did in its first few arcs. And in fact, when Hayden is doing the artwork, I think it's better. But Hayden's doing other things, including New History of the DC Universe, issue number 4, the final issue of this new history of the DC Universe, penned by Mark Waid, with artwork here by Howard Porter and Hayden Sherman. And y'all, it freaking works. So this takes us from Flashpoint all the way through today. I am a sucker for these History of the DC Universe books. I love them. If you are just getting into comics, for instance, and getting into DC, like if this is your first year getting into DC Comics, you can read all 4 issues of this, and you are like caught up on everything. And that's exactly what Mark Wolfman and George Perez did when they did the original History of the DC Universe. And every time they've done something like this, because DC, you know, they do reboots, they do changes, they do things like that, but it's all in continuity, and that's what I love. And Mark Waid is able to very efficiently captivate the audience, or I should say, Mark Waid is very efficiently capturing those story beats for new readers and for old readers alike. Because even if you're an old reader and you've been reading DC books for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, sometimes it's just nice to know how everything fits together today. This is a book that tells us that. Then we've got Superman issue number 31. This is a DCKO tie-in. How essential of a tie-in is it? It's not necessary for your understanding of DCKO. But it is another banging issue of Superman. Josh Williamson has been killing it here. On the artwork, we have Eddie Barrows and Eber Ferreira. I love the artwork in this book. Superman on the cusp of entering this Omega tournament that was set up in DCKO is, you know, talking to his parents, talking to his wife, trying to figure out everything, make it all work out. But at the same time, it's adding an interesting new layer to the mythology of Superman and new complexities to the DCKO thing. This is not essential, but it is fun and it's awesome, and y'all should have been reading Superman all along. Another book you should be reading is Justice League Unlimited. Mark Waid's been doing this book with Dan Mora. It's definitely been plugged into the ongoing story that's led up to DCKO. This is a DCKO tie-in. Is it essential? No, it's not super essential, but you got Dan Mora artwork. You got Mark Waid bringing in Polka Dot Man. It's awesome. Well, most of the bigwigs of the JLA are facing off in this Omega tournament. We have other people trying to keep it together. And Mr. Terrific realizes that the way he can keep it together is with some of these out-of-time, displaced heroes, like Guy Gardner Warrior, Electric Blue Superman, Hook Hand Aquaman, and it works. It's really good. If you've been reading Justice League Unlimited, I love the widening of the scope and scale of this book. Mark Waid's been able to handle it very well. And here in issue number 12, hell, we're not just dealing with too many characters, we're dealing with too many iterations of characters, but it works, and it works within the story that we're being told. Then we have Flash here with issue number 26. Mark Waid and Christopher Cantwell are doing this issue of Flash because Cy Spurrier's run is over, so I decided to check it out. Artwork by Vasco Georgiev. Art's fine. Story's fine. It's okay. Wally West is dealing with all the recent revelations about the KO tournament from the Time Trapper, also known as Doomsday at the End of Time. Saying that's not quite an AKA, right? It is. I failed again. I failed. This book failed. It was okay. It did not make me want to tell you that you must read this issue of Flash. So there you go. Then we got Detective Comics 1102, the second part of the newest story from Tom Taylor and artist Miguel Hanin. If I'm saying that wrong, somebody please let me know. Really interesting, like, blackjack game between Bruce Wayne and a new dude who winds up being the villain here. It's an interesting story. I like it, but the highlight is Hanin on the artwork. It is absolutely stellar. His work on the coloring is beautiful. This might be one of the best colored comics this week. Yeah. And it's Miguel Hanin who's doing the coloring. So I love this book. Artistically, I love this book. Story-wise, it's interesting. It introduces a new threat to Batman and to Gotham, and it does it pretty solidly. All right, then we got Green Lantern here with issue number 28. We are now past the Starbreaker supremacy. That whole crossover has ended. Everything that Jeremy Adams has been building up to is done. Where do we go from here? Well, we go from here with doing a nice story that's just kind of focusing in on Hal and his love for Carol. And I think that's sweet and sappy and romantic and awesome. But it is also amping up the intrigue on what's already going on. And this is something that Jeff Johns was able to do in his Green Lantern run, was blow our minds with things like the Sinestro Corps and then set up within the aftermath of that things that were going to lead to Blackest Night. That's what I think Jeremy Adams is doing here. The art takes a step down for sure here, but this is a nice post this event. Here's where the GL Corps is. Here's where Hal is. And here's where we're going forward. All right, also from DC, we got a facsimile version. I got the foil cover of Action Comics 230 or 252, which is the first appearance of Supergirl. Supergirl is about to be a movie star. Hopefully. We'll see. I hope I see Supergirl in the new Supergirl movie. I know it's based on Woman of Tomorrow, so it's out in space, but I still hope there's a Popeye's chicken out there somewhere that she's fighting around. Y'all get that? All right. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue number 12 from IDW, the final issue of the Jason Aaron run, the final issue from Juan Ferreira. I am sad. I am sad. Juan Ferreira is one of my favorite artists. I think he's underappreciated. I think he's undersung. That's why every time I see a book from Juan, I try to really promote it and push it, because this dude is stellar. And why is he not on the biggest of biggest titles out there? Well, you know what? He kind of is, because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has been around for 30 years. Like, holy cow, or almost 30 years. Really exceptional stuff here. A really great emotional payoff to this 12-issue run. And y'all, when this 12 issues is collected in one hardcover, it's a must on every Turtle fan's shelves. It really, really is. I'm sad to see this team leave. I'm excited for what's to come, because the setup from the conclusion of this book is incredibly interesting. From our friends over at Dynamite, we got the Terminator Metal, issue number 1. This is written by Declan Shalvey and Rory McConville, with artwork by Lorenzo Ray, who we saw on the previous Terminator book, which was actually really good. I kind of fell out of it. But recently I had a conversation with Declan and Rory on the channel about this book, and I really loved what they had to say about the Terminator as a concept, as a franchise, and what they were going to do with this book. Once again, just like the previous book, basically a series of one-shots or two-part stories, like with different artists, but they all combine together to tell one intricate and interesting story. That's what's being done here in the Terminator Metal issue number 1. So after that conversation with Declan and Rory, I went back, reread the issues of Terminator I had read, and read the ones that I had missed. I read all 10 issues of the previous Terminator run, and right before that, I had watched all 6 of the Terminator movies for the conclusion of Action Fest on PCP Movie Night this year. And y'all, I'm Terminator crazy. I love what Declan and Rory have planned for this book, and this was a really solid first issue. If you're a Terminator fan, definitely check it out. Then we've got Space Ghost here with issue number 4 of season 2 of David Pepose' and Jonathan Lau's Space Ghost. What can I say that I haven't already said? I say the same thing every time. It bears repeating. This is one of the best superhero comic books on shelves. Self-contained stories, part of a larger narrative that build up an emotional connection with the audience, the reader, as well as building up emotional connectivity between the different characters. And I said this on my show last night, because every Monday night over at the EXP, I do a show with Dynamic Forces, aka, oh, I did the AKA thing. Anyway, I do a show with Dynamite every Monday night, and last night I said this. David Pepose and Ed Brisson, we'll get to him in a second. Dynamite is allowing creators to actually develop these concepts that are just based on cartoons that didn't really have the luxury of time and space and schedule to develop true emotional connections between characters and really dive into the character work. The strongest thing about Space Ghost is the character work and how earnest and honest and urgent David and Jonathan and the rest of the team are with delivering one of the greatest comic books, superhero comic books of today. Also, that Michael Cho cover, it gets the cover of the week. Look at that. It's like Gold Key come back to life as a zombie eating somebody, reinvigorating themselves, and just like becoming leader of the world and leading us to this new era of prosperity. It's a weird analogy. All right, then we got Thundercats Lost here by Ed Brisson. Ed Brisson's doing the same thing that David's doing over at Space Ghost, taking the concept of Thundercats. Like Declan Shalvey's already doing a great job on the regular Thundercats, but Thundercats Lost, to me, is actually better. This is about another faction of Thundercats that land on Third Earth before the main line Thundercats do. And it ties into what's going on with Declan's work, but it also works in and of its own volition. And it's very exciting and very interesting. Then we have Silverhawks here with issue number 9. Ed Brisson is doing things with Silverhawks that nobody's ever done. He's really elaborating that backstory. He's really building up these characters. He's really building up the motivations. And I am a huge fan of Silverhawks, so I love this book. However, unfortunately, there's only one more issue left. Dynamite, if I have any say at all, we need more Silverhawks. In fact, I'm ready for the Thunderhawks book. So let's get that going. All right, from Dark Horse Comics, we have Captain Henry and the Graveyard of Time from Mike Mignola, part of the Hellboy universe. There's a Mike Mignola cover right there. That's the variant. Bruce Zick on the artwork. I like the artwork. I love the coloring. I think the story is just kind of okay, though. I don't remember this story from any other Hellboy story or BPRD story I've read, but I could be misremembering. It's about this dude named Captain Henry. He puts on this outfit where he can go in between reality, the real world and the afterlife, and he can fight ghosts. He can bustin' makes me feel good. That's what's going on here. It's all right. If you're the most hardcore Hellboy universe Mike Mignola fan, check it out. Otherwise, this isn't the book that's gonna bring you into that world. Then we have Nocturnals, The Sinister Path, issue number 2 from Dan Brereington. I got the Mike Mignola cover right there because I'm a big fan, but I'm also a big fan of Dan Brereington. I've met him before. Super cool dude. I used to read, back in the Oni Press days, all of the Nocturnals books. I still have some of my original Oni Press versions of the trades, but I also have the 2 hardcover omnibuses that Dark Horse has done. That being said, reading this book, I'm so confused. I haven't read Nocturnals in a long time, so I'm enjoying the artwork. The artwork is stellar. It's beautiful. It's great. The story is good. If I was plugged in to get replugged back in, I think, you know what? I think we're near Halloween. I think it's appropriate to dust off those Dark Horse omnibuses and reread them. Then from Mad Cave Studios, we have Speed Racer, Tales from the Road, 2 Princes. It's a one-shot. It's got 1 big story and 1 short story. The big story is by Mark London, who is the man behind the man of Mad Cave Studios, and artwork by Sebastian Perez, who we will know from recent issues of Johnny Quest with Joe Casey. I believe, right? Yeah. Sebastian does a hellaciously awesome job on the artwork in this Racer X story. I really liked it. Story-wise, it's not super essential. If you're enjoying the Speed Racer book by David Pepose and you're enjoying the Racer X book by Mark Russell, I would recommend that you check this out. But if you just love good art and a good comic book, read this. And it's because of Sebastian's work that really makes this work. All right, then you have David Pepose and Alessio Zono on a little short story at the end. That's fine, and it's good. It's solid. It's good. Does Speed Racer need one-shots to elaborate the story when we've only had, 2 issues of Racer X and 3 or 4 issues of Speed Racer? No, it doesn't. But this is a damn fine comic book, so how about that? Also from Mad Cave Studios, we have Orla issue number 3. Our friend John Lees kind of doing his horror tribute to the romance comics of the 1950s. This is about a woman who has a lot of bad experiences with men, turns her into a monster. Men try to take advantage of her. She turns into a monster. She eats them and kills them. Now, what happens when she actually meets a good dude that she wants to develop a relationship with? But those tendencies, because they're so easy to lean into, what happens when those start coming back out? I love this book. I love the artwork by Catrino. Sally Catrino, I believe. Yeah, Sally Catrino. Love the artwork, love the story, and I love the nuance of the story. Once again, when you're so used to being defensive and fighting, when you're so used to that and something actually happens that's magical and good, it's hard sometimes to deal with that. And that's what this book is representing, and I really love it for that. Also, there was a new Mad Cave book called Warwolf. I intended to read it, left it at the shop somehow, so I haven't read Warwolf. So I want you to let me know. Let's flip the script, y'all. You let me know if Warwolf number 1 was good, and how many out of 5 you digs would you give it. From EC Comics and Oni Press, we have Outlaw Showdown. It's a one-shot comic, kind of in the vein of Two-Fisted Tales from back in the day. It was all right. We got a story from John Arcudi and Sebastian Cabral, which I really loved, thought was the best of the thing. Then you got one written and illustrated by Tony Moore with Rico Renzi on the coloring. That one was decent. It was solid. The Cure by Ann Nocenti and David Lapham. It was good. It was good. And then we've got Pony Express by Christopher Cantwell and Dan McDade, and that was all right too. Then you've got a reprint of a Harvey Kurtzman Jack Davis book. So let me tell you something. This book is $9. Honestly, it's worth it alone just for this reprint of the Jack Davis Harvey Kurtzman book. Seriously, I have the EC archives. I've been diving into them. I love them. Tony Moore's artwork is great. The artwork throughout the entire book is good. Some stories are better than others. It was the first story that really works for me, that one right there. But altogether, I liked it. Cold Hearts, Hot Lead, and Revenge. That's what you get in this one-shot comic. All right, speaking of one-shot comics from Ahoy, Ahoy! Makes me want ice cream. And see what I did there? Stranger Things. Anyway, Thanksgiving, which is a one-shot comic about a slasher, but not related to Eli Roth's Thanksgiving slasher movie. It's written by Mark Russell with artwork by Morissette. I liked it. It's about a family that's meeting on Thanksgiving, and maybe this is like a month too early, but at least the book is out before Thanksgiving, so that's pretty freaking cool. But it's got some interesting commentary. It's about a family, and every year at Thanksgiving they do this thing where like they share family secrets. Like they're like, everybody's got to tell the family something they've never told the family before, and it leads to this other thing. And yeah, Mark Russell is playing with some of his ideas and some commentary about Thanksgiving and what it means, especially today in American society. But that's not the point of the book. The point of the book is to be fun, interesting, and exciting. And it's fun and it's interesting and it's slightly exciting. I actually liked this book. I thought it was good. And like a lot of Ahoy comics, it smells so good. It doesn't smell like green bean casserole. It doesn't smell like turkey and cranberry sauce. Because that's not cranberry sauce. Anybody get that reference? Blood Rage? Anyway, that being said, I like this book. I thought it was super solid, and I think a month from now is the perfect time to read this book. You know when you go to Thanksgiving dinner and you're like, oh, the fam, I don't want to have to do this. There's a racist person there. There's this person that has crazy ideas. This person's cool, but they're slightly weird. That's kind of what we're dealing with in that book, but at another degree. Then from Titan Comics, we have The Savage Sword of Conan Reforged, issue number 1. So I think this is a 6-issue series, what it's doing is it's reprinting the original issues of Savage Sword of Conan, this time colorized for the very first time. The coloring is decent, it's fine, but one of the things that works for me about the original Savage Sword of Conan so well is the black and white artwork, so it kind of misses something for me. In fact, I appreciate you, Titan, for doing this, but what I would really appreciate more, just say, fuck it, let's commit to it. Savage Sword of Conan, number 1, reprint, facsimile, boom. Number 2, facsimile, boom. 3, reprint every issue of Savage Sword of Conan. Because let me tell you something. Those Titan omnibuses are rather expensive. I can't afford them. If I can't afford them, and I work at a comic shop with a hefty discount, like I run a comic shop, like most people can't afford those. Let's get some cheaper paperbacks, or let's really commit to like 24 facsimiles in a row. Let's do it. All right. So anyway, that's what I read. That's what I thought. Now we're going to go back through and you dig them, rate them on the you dig scale. So out of 5 possible you digs, Savage Sword of Conan Reforged, you can't rate that one because like the original work is so good, 5. The recolored version, 3.5. Thanksgiving, I'll give this a 4. Outlaw Showdown, I'll give that one a 3.69, dudes. All right, Orlaw gets a 4, you dig. Speed Racer, Tales from the Road gets a 4, you digs. Nocturnal's Sinister Path gets a 3.5. Captain Henry and the Graveyard of Time gets a 2.5. Silverhawks gets a 3. Thundercats Lost gets a 3.5. Space Ghost gets a 4. Terminator Metal gets a 3.69. TMNT gets a 4.5. That's a reprint right there. We're not going to rate that. Green Lantern gets a 3. Detective Comics gets a 3.5. The Flash gets 2. Justice League Unlimited gets 3.5. Superman gets a 4. New History of the DC Universe gets a 4.5. Absolute Wonder Woman gets a 4.5. Predator Kills the Marvel Universe gets a 3. The Ultimates gets a 4. Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion gets a 3.5. Ultimate Spider-Man gets a 3.5. Moon Knight gets a 3.5. Fantastic Four gets a 3. Radioactive Spider-Man gets a 2.5. Last Wolverine gets a 2. Omega Kids gets a 3.69. Book of Revelation gets a 3. Gunslinger Spawn gets a 2. King Spawn gets a 2.5. Exquisite Corpses gets a 4. News from the Fallout gets a 4.5. Escape gets a 4.5. No Man's Land gets a 4.5. Skinbreaker gets a 4. And The Invisible Man gets 5. Ya digs. Perfect score. Perfect book. I love it. It's the pick of the week. Anyway, that's what I read. That's what I thought. That's what I'm digging. What are you reading? What are you thinking? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Please be sure to check us out at popculturephilosophers.com for podcast blogs and a whole lot more. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so at patreon.com/PCP. Also be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We're dipping out. Thanks for watching the video. Station, pop, pop, boom. Keep on reading. We're done.